have it.
Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Dennis Adigunloye. Just 6 days after President Muhammadu Buhari presented the 2022 Appropriations Bill to a joint session of the National Assembly, the Senate has concluded the debate on the general principles, passed it for second reading, and referred it to the Senate Committee on Appropriations for further legislative input. Issues focused on included the expansion of rail lines, job creation, improvements in the health and agriculture sectors, as well as better oversight of the budget by legislators.
Movements of goods and services along the corridors of our transportation nodes are very key to economic sustainability.
Most of our committees, honestly, are not being very effective in their role of oversighting MDAs.
We should diversify our economy, go into agriculture holistically.
I want to appeal to this Senate that we should look at the health sector and provide more funds for the health sector to add more value to it.
To go into as much of mechanized agriculture as possible and give all forms of incentives to those who are willing to go into that area.
It is important that we actually make proper allocations to the power sector.
But when the railway lines take all our goods, the roads will be light and they will last long. As long as that deficit is meant to finance critical infrastructure, there is no problem.
The issue of security, as mentioned by the Mr. President, and the commitment shown, is something that should be appreciated by all the sundry.
My interest will be advocacy for women, children, and adolescents.
For revenue to be in place, our infrastructures must be in place. There can be no development without infrastructures.
The legislators, while remaining committed to early passage of the budget for improved implementation, were however concerned that revenue generation needs improvements. To boost IGR and other revenue bases, they suggest strengthening checks on tax evasion.
A lot of people that are supposed to be paying their taxes, they don't. And you expect the government to handle everything.
The budget being sent or being passed or being given to NDLA, as I look at it, is inadequate.
A PPP model and concessioning so that we can reduce borrowing.
To our roads in northern part of the country, especially north central, northwest, and also northeast. If you take a look at the road project there, the ratio of the road project is very low. So I want Senate to kindly intervene.
One of the areas that I look forward to this government putting a lot of money in is in the completion of Iron and Steel Complex.
Distinguished colleagues, I agree completely with those of us who raised the issue of revenue generation, collection, and remittances to the coffers of the federal government. The agencies that are supposed to collect and remit revenues would have to be tasked, and this 2022 appropriation bill shows that we have over 400 billion coming especially from these agencies as additional revenues. We need to do better. There is need for us to be very vigilant and oversight very closely to ensure that the taking off is successful.
Plenary has now been adjourned to 9th of November to allow ministries, departments and agencies to appear before the various Senate committees for the budget defense phase of the process.
If you expect that we will do better because we are getting more experience year in, year out, so probably we are going to improve on what we have done last in terms of diligence that has been applied to the processing of appropriation bills since the inception of democracy in 1999 to date. We are determined as ever to make sure that we get everything done before December, and hopefully the budget will be assented to, the bill will be assented to by Mr. President before the December, so that we can maintain the budget cycle that run from January to December, which started at the inception of the second term of this administration.
And now to get a broader perspective on the issues raised during the debates, here is the Senate Deputy Minority Whip and Senator representing Sokoto South Senatorial District, Ibrahim Dambaba.
This budget, to a certain extent, it has its pros, it has its what do you call it, positive part, it also has a negative part. The positive part of it is that the government this time around, just like what happened in 2020 and 2021, progressively we are beginning to see change. You can see that the performance of the budget last year and this year, was not as it was before. Before, in the implementation of the budget, we used to have a 60% implementation level, 70% at best. But I can tell you from documents that I have sourced, in 2021, we are having more than 80% performance on pro rata basis. So we are hoping that by the end of the year, the implementation level probably will be more than anything that we have seen in the past before. But I have my own reservations on this budget and how possible it is for us to be able to implement it. A budget of 16.39 trillion with a deficit of 6.26 trillion, and parameters that are very optimistic, is going to be very difficult for us to be able to achieve our targets in such a way that we will be able to implement this budget the way we wish the implementation to come out to be. If you look at the deficit is about 38% of the entire budget. While if you look at the component of the budget that constitutes the capital segment of the budget, is about 32%. So if you look at 38 and 32, relatively speaking, it means that part of the money that is going to be borrowed is going to finance the current expenditure, because only 32% is supposed to be required for the to service the proposed capital expenditure spending in the budget. We must slim down our recurrent expenditure for us to be able to have enough funds to allocate to capital expenditure. There are so many roads that are terribly bad. You cannot have the kind of economic development that you think you can have without having good infrastructural development. We can use PPP, private public partnership. These roads can be, some kind of concession. If we have people, there are individuals, there are companies that are international companies that are ready to partner with Nigeria in this kind of projects so that, development can be brought closer to the people. The borrowing constitutes about 38% of the entire budget, while the entire capital, including the capital that has to do with statutory transfers. Some of this capital, mark you, some of this capital that has been captured in the 32% is not physical capital, it's intangible capital. Because the capital we have, tangible capital, we have intangible capital. And all those components, any cost that is incidental to to any capital project is also regarded as also a capital expenditure. So there lies, out of maybe this 32%, the real capital injection in the budget will be probably about only 25%. So if you have about 25%, about 13% or so, you understand what I mean, of this borrowing is going to be dedicated to an expenditure that is not really capital expenditure, but semi-capital. But to my own understanding, is the only way that this thing can be done is probably, believe you me, there should be some change of attitude, even within the National Assembly. There are committees that are supposed to be responsible for oversight, like Appropriation Committee. Appropriation Committee is one of the most important committees that should oversight the activities of the Federal Ministry of Finance. And not only finance, all other implementing MDAs of the budget, because it has global oversight on how budget is implemented. You see, there should be some kind of regular reporting to the chamber on how the budget is progressing. So to say, at least we should have some kind of quarterly reports from the Appropriation Committee to the extent that this budget that has been passed, so much has been achieved and so much has not been achieved. And other committees also that are critical. We have Finance Committee, we have other committees, like we have Committee of Army, Police, and so on, to see how are the police people really implementing their capital budget. How are the Army, implementing their own capital project? How is the, Air Force doing its own? All these things are supposed to be oversighted by committees of the National Assembly, both Senate and, of course, House of Representatives. If we continue to do that, I am sure we will be in a position to force the executive arm of government to work truly. You see, this GOEs, as they are called, government-owned enterprises, that generate most of the revenues that accrue for government expenditure. You see, a lot has been achieved. So much progress has been made. If you compare the revenue that was generated 2 years back and today, there is a significant increase in the revenue generation. And also, the Senate actually made it very difficult for MDAs to play the kind of games they were playing in the past. It has been since 1999, there has not been any Senate committee on public accounts that rendered any report on the flow of the Senate. The 9th Assembly Committee on Public Accounts actually went out of its way to ensure that it submitted a report. And the report now has made MDAs executives to now become G3. And I am telling you, and I'm sure, that because of that, all of them will be on their toes to ensure that they expected, in fact, some of them will be even going beyond the targets that have been set for them. Well, you see, what actually happened on the floor of the Senate yesterday and today was all about the general principles of the budget. We have not been able to see the details of what is there. It is only when we see the details that we will be able to say, yes, this is going to happen, or this is what we are expecting. But as soon as they just made these copies available to us just now, and they said they are in 3 volumes. We have 2 volumes so far. They are yet to produce the 3rd volume from the budget office of the Federation. So as soon as that is made available to us, I'm sure some of us will be reviewing what is there in the budget, and then at appropriate time we'll offer our views.
A major tool the legislative arm of government uses to appropriate funds is assessment of the budget performance of the previous year by ministries, departments and agencies. The Federal Ministry of Works and Housing was recently subjected to this scrutiny by the Senate Committee on Works, chaired by Senator representing Kebbi Central, Adamu Aliero.
The ministry to brief us fully on the utilization of all releases made. We know very well that road sector is a very important sector in the economic development of any country.
Currently, the utilization is 94.917 billion, roughly, and a committed balance of 88.053 billion.
You can take the initiative of asking for Biomet to enable you pay those ones so that these monies will not be refunded.
In the year 2021, a total of 7 projects have been fully completed. So the second section of the Kano Maiduguri, the Bandekia Obudu Cattle Ranch Road, has one of the things we completed this year.
Some senators also drew attention of the minister to the state of certain roads.
Zaria to Gusau, Sokoto to Kebbi. Is that road Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano?
Coming from 9th Mile, there's 9th Mile or parts of Abo Udi, Oji River, Anambra. This is an old road.
In its commitment to improvements in the sector, the 9th National Assembly has passed the Federal Road Fund Bill and the National Road Authority Bill, while the Public-Private Partnership Bill is still under consideration. Earlier in the week, another hot topic was up for debate in chambers, that being the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill, already passed by the Senate back in July. However, the legislators had a rethink on Clause 52, which stated that transmission of election results can only take place if the Nigerian Communications Commission, NTC, assured of adequate and secured network coverage and is approved by the National Assembly. Now, the position of the Senate on this clause is that the mode of voting during an election and the mode of transmission of results shall be within the sole purview of INEC. Clause 43, subsections 1 and 3 also stipulate that the electronic voting machine is the only device to be used for the conduct of elections. On the conduct of political party primaries, the Senate now stands firmly behind direct primaries as stipulated in Clause 87.
Because 43 now makes provision for acceptance of electronic voting machine.
I don't see any reason why anybody should be afraid of direct primary. It helps the people who are members of your party to feel wanted.
It is more cheaper, less cumbersome to have indirect primary election.
There are some who want this. There are some who are opposed to it. It's for the conference committee to retreat after the submissions by our colleagues. You can now go to the House engagement with an opinion, which will be the preponderant opinion of the Senate.
The federal government is collaborating with stakeholders in the health sector to bring health institutions back on track through passage of bills and implementation of policies that will address challenges in the sector. The committee was on a fact-finding mission on development projects in the South-South and the Southeast, particularly those related to COVID. This is to ensure all tertiary institutions are adequately prepared for emergencies.
When COVID started, we had less than 300 ventilators in the country, and the oxygen usage or delivery of oxygen through ICU was very, very minimal. But I can tell you now, in all the hospitals in the country that are federally owned, we have what we have seen here in UBT.
And the Senate has again reaffirmed its commitment to introduce legislation that will strengthen the health sector and reposition it for improved service delivery. This was during a public hearing on 3 health bills for the establishment of the Federal Medical Center DEBA, the Federal Orthopedic Hospital Lafiaji, and the National Bonds and Rehabilitation Center Ilaro.
The medical center, if provided, will provide millions of people with rapid access to highest quality care, lifelong learning in health.
A dedicated center for burns and rehabilitation will go a long way in reducing mortality arising from burns.
We concur and we support all the 3 bills on the basis of accessibility, availability, affordability, and convenience.
We are once more on course with the plans before us, concerned about new establishments to enhance institutions and get them closer to the people hitherto excluded from these services.
The established hospital will provide specialized orthopedic care to people of its immediate environment and Nigerians in general.
The agency therefore aligns herself with the intent of the bills and support the activities of the National Assembly.
Well, that concludes Senate 109 for this week. Thanks for watching and being a part of the program. Till next week, I am Dennis at Digunloye. Bye for now.